Hello, good morning, everyone. It is Monday. That means it's time for a tier list. I am happy to bring you today's tier list. I felt kind of regal when I did that, but I recognize that I think it just came across as confusing. Hi, I'm Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, and I wanted to talk about held items today. I get asked a lot about what items to use on different Pokemon, and I did make a whole video with items for each Mon. I'm pointing my fingers here because I want to put it right there, but I know me. There's not going to be anything there. If there is, it's a miracle. So if you want to check that out, it's on my channel. But I just wanted to talk about items broadly a little bit in this video and then rank them all. So please join me, won't you? Join me, won't you, to the tier list. Here we are, and oh my goodness, Shurko, no, you're not part of this tier list. Get out of here, Shurko. Boy, we run a tight ship around here. Me all by myself, not being fully ready for anything. Let's talk about items. So, here are our tiers. We have the God tier. As I've said many times, there can only be one God. We're not freaking Norse around here. We have the pretty great on everyone tier, the situationally great tier, the these are tier, and the why did they make this tier. So I'm just going to rank all these items. I'm going to talk to you about each one and give you an idea of what Pokemon I think they're good on and why I think they rank, where they rank on this list. Let's do it. Oh boy, let's do it. Where do we start? I'll even start with Eos Cookie. Eos Cookie is an interesting item. I'm just gonna hover each of them into kind of a middle section here, and then I'll rank it here. So Eos Cookie is a stackable item. Any stacking item, and I get asked this a lot actually about stacking items. Any stacking item stacks 6 times. You can score any amount of points. There's no cooldown on it, so you can literally score on a goal. There can be 1 Eos energy right next to that goal. You can pick that up and score again. That counts as a stack. So stacking items stack up to 6 times, and Eos Cookie gives you HP every time you stack with this item. It seems good, and I actually think, in theory, it's a pretty dang good item. It feels like it's good, but because its only benefit is that HP, it actually pales in comparison, I think, to a few other items that also give you hit points, but at the same time do more benefits otherwise. So it's weird because I would feel like stacking this fully, I think you get 1200 extra HP. I'm pretty sure that's correct here. In fact, let me actually just pull this up so I could look at it. I should have had this up while I was doing it, but I kind of know all these by heart. This is one of the ones I don't use enough. Been using it a little more lately to mess around with it, but I believe you get 1200 HP if you stack a full level 12 Eos Cookie. Yeah, so you stack 6 times, 200 each time. It also gives you plus 160 HP just for wearing it. So it seems like a pretty good item. However, the issue I find with this item, again, is its passive, which is stacking. That's all it does. So it's nice to have that extra HP, but all of the Pokemon you're putting it on, I think, benefit from other items more, and I'll talk to you about them in a minute. So I'm going to put this in the these are tier. It's kind of There aren't many Pokemon you'd want to run this on. That's my opinion on it. Not only because you have to stack it 6 times, which means you probably have to run a Score Shield with it, which means you're most likely a Pokemon that has a lot of HP or defense, which means you might not benefit that much from this item. But again, also its passive is not so great. Assault Vest. Assault Vest is another interesting one. I want to put this in the situationally great tier, but it's not. I don't think it's fully there. This one comes close. The biggest issue with Assault Vest, so let's talk about it. Assault Vest, it gives you a 15%, based on 15% of your HP barrier around you that negates special attacks if you're out of combat for 8 seconds, and it kind of comes back on. I like it on a few Mons, and when Sylveon was way overpowered, I was running it on a couple Pokemon pretty consistently. However, the biggest issue with this is the game is done through a blind pick phase. You don't know what your opponents have, so you could run this item and run into a team where you're not getting much use out of it. Then the other issue is you have to wait a certain amount of time for it to come online. I like running this a little bit on some of the very, very tanky Pokemon because the more HP you have, obviously, the more benefit you get out of this. I've seen people run this item on Pokemon like Zeraora and stuff like that. I think it's kind of cool because if you're anyone who dives in, there are times where you want to negate some damage that's thrown at you, but because you don't know what your enemy is running, you kind of run into the situation where this also falls in the category. I think it's better than Eos Cookie, but you could run up against a team and this not be very useful at all. That's the most unfortunate thing about an item like Assault Vest. I like it, and once we have the ability to see what's on the opposing team, I actually think it's a more viable choice. However, right now, I think there are only a few Pokemon that you'd probably run this on, and there are other items that are similarly good. So right now, I think it's What I would like to see for this to get better, again, knowing who's on the opposing team, that's a big part of it. Also, maybe the amount of shield getting a little bit bigger. I know it's minor, but small incremental changes in games like this actually make a big deal. It's possible that if this item was at 20% of max HP, all of a sudden you'd go, oh, it's actually huge. It's a huge difference. So we'd have to see what it does. I think it needs a little bit of a buff, or you need to know who you're going up against before this item can truly be situationally great. I guess situationally, if they're all special attackers, it's pretty good, but still, I think this one's a little weak. I wonder if I should bounce around here a little bit. Well, I can do attack weight. Attack weight's interesting because it's like Eos Cookie, but there are a few Pokemon that greatly benefit from it. I think Lucario's a good one. Talonflame, if you do a lot of scoring with it. Greedent's pretty good with attack weight. There are only a few Pokemon that score enough consistently, are in lane, and can use this well. But for those Pokemon, I actually think situationally this is a great item. It is. It's a small pool of Pokemon that take advantage of attack weight, but the ones that do really take advantage of it. Again, take a look at my guide and I'll tell you about some of the Pokemon that actually take advantage of this pretty well. But I think this is a good item on a few Pokemon. Really good, in fact. I always run it on Lucario. I sometimes run it on Talon. Basically, if the Pokemon scales really well with attack percentage, and that's something that I get into in other videos. Some Pokemon do, some Pokemon don't. But, Lucario's Power-Up Punch, Lucario's Steadfast, Greedent's Belch, Talonflame's Fly, all of these scale incredibly well with attack damage. So situationally, I would say attack weight is pretty great. And I think the biggest difference between attack weight and Eos Cookie is the extra damage you get from attack can feel so significant, especially if you're one of those monsters in lane like Lucario. So, and the HP, not as much sometimes. So that's just my opinion on it. I feel like with the percentage that you gain from it, it's pretty huge on certain attacks. Okay, let's bounce around a little bit because there are a few up here that are very, very good. Obviously, no question, Buddy Berry is a really good item, but I kind of want to bounce around a little because I think some of these will rank near the top. And let's see a few who might get. Oh, here's one. Muscle Band. Let's go with Muscle Band. Muscle Band is an interesting item. I'm sure if you are really plugged into, watching a lot of Unite videos, you've probably seen Super Teeds talk about how the attack speed in the game is set up in a weird way where it's almost tiered. It's not just based on a percentage, but it seems to be you have to reach certain tiers. So, Muscle Band, for instance, the attack speed bonus doesn't help every Pokemon it's put on necessarily. That is not why you run this item. It's an issue with this item. I wish everyone just got the attack speed, but that is not why you run this item. You run this item because it gets that extra amount of chip damage on every single basic attack you do. Basically, any ranged Pokemon, I think this item is almost necessary on any ranged Pokemon because you are always getting the damage from it. Always. All game. All game you're doing extra damage. It's every single attack. It's on every wild Pokemon. It's on every enemy Pokemon. It's such a great item. There are a few Pokemon that benefit more from other items, but you will even run this on Eldegoss, a support character. So I think this is one of the best items in the game. I'll put it in the pretty great on everyone tier. Let's see. Floatstone. Floatstone bad. So here's the issue with Floatstone is that it takes so long for the increased movement speed to get active. You would think from reading it, and everyone thought this when the game first came out, that it's one of the best items in the game. You would think, because movement speed in most MOBAs is paramount. You see Greedent, you see Crustle, you can't catch them, you can't slow them down. But the movement speed is not as significant as we thought it would be. It takes a long time to activate, and if you're someone in the jungle, you're actually attacking a lot. You're not waiting 8 seconds before you get into another encounter. If they cut the cooldown on this triggering or things like that, it could be good. But right now I have to put this in the why did they make this category. I think a lot of people wasted a ton of item enhancers on it, and it's just not a very good item. Honestly, it's pretty bad. It needs to be fixed, or I guess they just have a bad item inside the game. Let's see. Let's talk about Shell Bell. So Shell Bell is a weird one, and here's what's weird about Shell Bell. Shell Bell is an item that is it sounds better than it is. That's Shell Bell's biggest issue. Is when I first played, I thought, again, cooldown reduction, healing, you would be able to be in lane longer. Like, I thought everything about this item sounded great. So some of the issues with it. You're not in lane that long in this game. You're in lane for a couple minutes and then you're rotating throughout the entire game. Inside of a fight, you would think, okay, I can get healing on all my moves, but it activates once every 10 seconds. It also activates when you have full HP, at least from my understanding. So here's what that means. You could start an encounter, use an ability. That ability hits an enemy Pokemon and it heals you, but you're full HP. However, your Shell Bell is now on cooldown. So it's going to be another 10 seconds, which could be an entire fight before that is back up again. It sounds like it's good, and I almost want to put it in the why did they make this category. I would put it in the these are category. It needs a little love. If this item got a little love, all of a sudden it's pretty good. Increasing the amount of cooldown reduction it gives, lowering the amount of time you heal from it, those would make this item way more viable. But right now it's just kind of, there's so many better choices, I think. And it's unfortunate because there are a few Pokemon I like running this on. It's pretty fun, but you just don't get as much use out of it compared to an item like, let me compare it to something really quick. Focus Band. Focus Band, I'm just going to drop right into the pretty great on everyone category. It might be our god tier item. So let's talk about why it's so much better to have a Focus Band than a Shell Bell. A Focus Band is for sure going to activate when you run out, or not run out, but run very low on health. It's going to give you a ton of health all at once. It's going to keep you alive. It basically saves you from getting knocked out inside of an encounter. Shell Bell might never be used inside of an encounter, but if you get low HP, Focus Band will be used. It also gives you defenses. I think at level 20 it activates once every 80 seconds. So once every 80 seconds, which sets up pretty well for a lot of the team fights in the game, heading down to Dread or, moving to the next team fight, moving up to Rotom. Wherever a team fight is happening, as long as you're careful not to get your Focus Band popped, as they say, you get it triggered by the enemies doing a lot of damage to you. As long as you don't get that to happen to you in a one-on-one or non-ideal situation, you're heading into every team fight with a massive amount of health that is going to get regened on your Pokemon. It's huge. It's so huge. It's great for laning. It's one of the best items in the game, for sure. I would put, it's tough, but I'd put it above Muscle Band here. I think it's one of the best items in the game. As I talk about a lot, things that keep you alive, especially in moments where you were going to get KO'd, and this is the difference between these items and Eos Cookie or Assault Vest. Things that keep you alive, like Focus Band, Buddy Barrier, in moments where instead you would be KO'd, are pretty huge. Now, Eos Cookie, you have more HP, so you do have more sustainability, that's true, But when your HP is really, really low, it's still really, really low. It doesn't change that. These items kind of change that. And in fact, now that I'm talking about Buddy Barrier, let's put it up in this category. We all know how good Buddy Barrier is. It's hard to overstate its use. Here are a few of the reasons it's good. It gives you a shield equal to 40% of your health. It gives an ally a shield. It gives you a flat amount of HP, just putting it on. It not only that, it lets you take advantage of your Unite move, whereas you might not be able to. So I think about a Pokemon like Garchomp. I think about Pokemon like Talonflame. Talonflame has a really good Unite. It's gotten a lot better, and you get to use it a lot. But if you Unite and pull enemies with you, and you have no HP to continue this encounter, you just get KO'd. However, with a Buddy Barrier, all of a sudden your Talonflame, you got a bunch of your HP back, you push people away. So this lets you Unite in good situations, Unite in bad situations. It's up there with Focus Band. It's probably better than Focus Band. I'm not... You know, it all depends. Definitely on coordinated teams, there's no question this is amazing. And when you see team fights near the end of the game, and people are using their Unite moves and allies on their team are getting these massive barriers, it changes the encounter. It's between these two right now in this category. Okay, let's talk about Energy Amplifier. Energy Amplifier. I have a tough time with this one, and there are only a few Pokemon that take advantage of this really, really well. I think it's still missing something, a little something. It might be that it doesn't charge Unite moves fast enough, and it might be that it's not giving enough damage. The tough thing is you only have 3 item spots. So I've seen a lot of people say things like, oh, this item, referring to many things, is a great 4th choice. And I think that's where Energy Amplifier lands a lot of the time. It's a great 4th choice. I see people run it on Char. I see people run it on Gardevoir sometimes, Pikachu sometimes. They're not bad choices, but if I had to choose between Buddy Barrier and Energy Amp, honestly, solo or coordinated teams, I'm almost going to pick Buddy Barrier every single time. It used to be something I ran on Cramorant. I guess you could still run it on Cramorant. Its Unite move is really, really important for Cram, but I wouldn't use it over a Buddy Barrier because you need to be able to stay alive and do the damage. So I think there are only a few Pokemon this even works decently well on. Because of that, I think I have to put this in the top of these are category. It's better than all these items, but I don't even think it's situationally great. I think it's situationally pretty good, and I don't have a situationally pretty good category. You know what? Here we go. It's only fair. Let's add a situationally pretty good category. You know what we'll call it? We'll call it the B tier. Still got a B tier. Okay. So, oh, what happened to situationally pretty great? It's gone. Oh no, I don't know how to spell it. Okay. We're just gonna say it's sometimes great. I don't have the ability to spell situationally great. It's B tier. I'm gonna put this in the B tier. Still got the B tier. Situationally. You know what? I'm gonna try it live. Situationally. Did I get it? I'm gonna let that stand even if I didn't get it. So, B tier, I think it's a B tier item. And I wasn't sure we were gonna have a B tier, but we've got ourselves a B tier, ladies and gentlemen. It happened. Beautiful. So right now I'm gonna put it in the B tier because it's situationally pretty good, and I think the best I can do is say it's not but it's not great either. It's not even situationally, that's possibly spelled wrong, great. Okay, let's take a look. Experience share. Experience share is an interesting one because when you're not running on coordinated teams, this doesn't really help you that much because you'll find that some of your allies seem to have no idea what's going on and don't let you use this item very well because they're drastically under-leveled and it makes no sense, but they're never at the encounter. Where are they? What are they doing? I don't know. And because of that, this solo queue is but situationally, on a coordinated team, it's actually really good. And I'm glad I have B tier right now because I actually want to leave it in the B tier. I don't even think situationally it's that great, really. So the biggest issue is you can't decide what that Charmander on your team's going to do and if they're going to get enough experience. You just can't. In a coordinated team, this might be pretty good, but there are other items I'd probably rather run anyway. So once this maybe starts giving a little more experience, it could rise into the situationally great category. Right now it's B. So situationally pretty good, but there are other items I'd rather run. Let's talk about choice specs. Choice specs are one of the newer items added into the game. There are 3 new items: Razor Claw, Choice Specs, and Weakness Policy. Choice Specs actually, I think, is a pretty dang good held item, and there are a lot of Pokemon that benefit from it. Again, take a look at my video and I can kind of break down which Pokemon I think works well with it, which doesn't. The nice thing about this is it takes a Pokemon that has a lot of special attack but not a lot of scaling, and it gives you some extra damage throughout the game. There are a lot of Pokemon I like running this item on, and I think it's really good, actually. I'm going to put it into the situationally great category. Again, there are Pokemon who aren't special attack based, there are Pokemon who benefit more from Wise Glasses, but in general, I think this is a pretty dang good item. I really, really like it. Leftovers. Leftovers has to go into the why did they make this category. I don't know. I get what they were going for, but the problem is you're not out of combat that much, and it doesn't give you that much health. There are only a couple Pokemon that this kind of works on. I think really Blissey mainly is one of the only Pokemon that really benefits from this, and even then, not so much. It would need to activate faster, or it would need to heal more. That way you felt like once that healing kicked in, you were actually like back in the encounter really, really quick. You wouldn't need to base. The problem is you could always base and get your health back. There are jump pads. There are just so many ways to get HP. You'll never get it in an encounter. I don't know if it's float stone bad, but it's bad. It's what these are both bad. I don't know where you put them. They're bad. Okay, Razor Claw. Razor Claw, the other one of the other newest items added. I actually think Razor Claw is really, really good. Of course, it only works on certain Pokemon, but the Pokemon it does work on, it works really, really well. It's a lot like Choice Specs, where, in fact, I might even put it above Choice Specs. I'm not sure. These are both really good. Maybe they're both even better than Attack Weight. I don't know what to tell you here about the ordering of this category. It doesn't really make that much sense. All that it matters is they're situationally great. I love it on Cinderace, Talonflame, Lucario. I really like it on, you can put it on Greninja, some of your melee Pokemon, Absol. You know, there are lots of Pokemon that take advantage of Razor Claw, and it actually made the game a lot burstier. I think it's a really, really good item. So I'd say it's situationally, possibly spelled incorrectly, great. Rocky Helmet is a weird one. You read it and you think it's good, and then you use it and you know it's bad. So here's the issue with Rocky Helmet. You don't get to decide when it triggers. It doesn't do that much damage. It doesn't give you that much defense. It's just kind of a mess, and it's down here in the why did they make this category. Part of me thinks maybe it's better than these two. Can't even count today. I can't spell, I can't count. What can I do? I spelled B though. I think this is probably at the top of the why did they make this category, but you know, being the biggest loser is only good on TV. So I think that was the Biggest Loser joke, by the way. It's a TV show. It's an older TV show, Jillian Michaels. Doesn't matter. It's not a good item. I wish it was good. I think it felt like, oh, you're gonna put this on Garchomp, right? No, because I want Garchomp to live, so I'm gonna put a focus band or something like that. Or, oh, you're gonna put this on Snorlax. Yeah, except you're probably gonna put a buddy barrier, or maybe even a muscle band, or tons of other items. So, no, I don't think so. Okay, let's do Scope Lens. Scope Lens is good when it's good, terrible when it's terrible. There are a few Pokemon that can crit. There are a few Pokemon that get a natural critical hits. There are a few Pokemon whose abilities crit. On all of those Pokemon, Scope Lens is a situationally great item in the sense that it's great. In specific situations, it is the best. So I'm gonna put it at the top of situationally great. That's a very odd distinction. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just that on the Pokemon who can benefit from a Scope Lens, like a Charizard, an Absol, Greninja, people like that, Cinderace. I think all the Pokemon who can really benefit from a scope lens really benefit from a scope lens. Those critical hits are very, very important. So, why not? It's at the top of situationally great, possibly spelled incorrectly. Where do we go next? Score Shield. Score Shield is one of the best items in the game. It's great when you're in lane. It's great solo queue. It's great late game. It sets up situations that you're not able to do through any other means, which is scoring in a time when an opponent wouldn't want you to score. So, you know, Lucario's entire top lane is based around using a score shield. Pokemon like any defender works really well with this, or lots of supports, because they have tons of HP. So in the laning phase, you can score in someone's face. And then later in the game, especially if you're solo, this can be the difference between winning the game or not. It's definitely a pretty great on everyone item. You can run this on any Pokemon and you get benefit from it. Any Pokemon in the game. Where does it land in this category? I'm not actually sure, but it's definitely up here on the pretty great on everyone category. Certain Pokemon it's fantastic on, and you kind of build around having a score shield. I think if you don't have an idea for a third item, you'll never go wrong having a score shield. You'll never go wrong really having any of these top choices if you don't have a third item, honestly. But score shield is amazing, and it changes the way you play the game. Start playing with it for a little while and you'll realize how mean it feels to run a score shield. Okay, special attack specs. Special attack specs are in line, I think, with AOS Cookie. I kind of want to maybe put them in B, but not really. I don't think there are many Pokemon I want to run this on. Only a few. You kind of need a score shield. You don't necessarily, but you kind of do. If you're running this item, you want to be able to stack it. Sometimes I run it on Mr. Mime, but lately I've just been swapping it out for choice specs if I'm going to run any type of damaging item. You could run it on Gengar. You could run it on Gardevoir. I don't even think it's that good on them at all. It's nice to have the extra special attack, but I feel like it might need to give you more with each score, because at least with an item like attack weight that's, you know, scales based on attack, that item, you're doing attacks a lot. You're doing special attacks less. I know that sounds... your basic attacks scale off attack. Not all of your basic attacks scale off special attack. So it just feels like you're getting less benefit from this normally, and not all Pokemon scale that well with special attacks. So I have to put this in maybe the top of the these are category. Yeah, I think so. Wise Glasses. Wise Glasses is an interesting one, because Wise Glasses, for the longest time, it was the item to run on special attackers, but once they kind of drilled down and did the math, people at, you know, the Unite Math Court and over at Unite DB and stuff, you find that not every ability scales that well with special attack, and they actually get their damage more from other things. However, I think situationally, this is still a pretty great item. You know, you can run it on Sylveon, Gardevoir. There are a lot of Pokemon who benefit greatly from this item, and I think because of that, it's up here. However, the interesting thing with glasses that almost moves it here are the choice specs. I think choice specs are really, really nice, but it all depends on the Pokemon. These two kind of move back and forth depending on who you're putting them on. They really do. And one of the biggest issues with both of these items is that it's not keeping you alive any longer. So if you have an item like a Focus Band that keeps you alive long enough to hit with one more ability, it probably trumps both these items. Maybe not in the long run if you're hitting with tons of abilities all game, but, or I should say moves. But yeah, it's situationally great. Situationally, it is great. All right. Next item, weakness policy. So, weakness policy. I made a video on my channel called Weakness Policy Bad, and I think it is kind of bad. It's not why did they make this bad, but I feel like it's not even B tier. I think it's maybe top of maybe top of Here's the issue. The stacks of it go away very fast. It doesn't give you as much as you feel like it does. there are Pokemon who you think like, okay, I'll put it on Zeraora, I'll be in the fight. It's not bad. You know, I'll put it on Mamoswine, I'll be in the fight. Not bad, not bad. But there are just tons of other items I'd rather run. That's the biggest issue, is it doesn't give you enough of a boost. So this probably needs to boost your attack even more to be more and more viable. There's some people who really like running it. More power to you. I personally don't think it is a very good item. And you know what? Another thing is, maybe if it didn't fall off so quickly, it would be pretty good. The thing is, you don't get a ton of benefit from it when you're chasing, right? So there's a situation where you don't get to use it. You don't get a ton of benefit from it all the time when you're, jungling or something like that, because things maybe are not hitting you that much. You're moving from Pokemon to Pokemon, wild Pokemon to wild Pokemon, and the stacks of it could fall off. So it's a nice benefit sometimes, but I just don't want to run it over some of the top items in this game. I really don't. So I have to put it in the these are category. So from here, we have to choose a god tier. And I think it would be hard to argue against Buddy Barrier. Buddy Barrier is a great choice. It's good on every single Pokemon in the game. Maybe except, who was I going to say that doesn't really use this item well? There's someone who I don't like running this on. Well, there are a few people I don't like running it on because I like running more, damage items or something like that. But in general, how do you beat this item? It's really, really hard. Giving yourself a shield just so you can even survive longer in an encounter after you've united and you're really, really powerful, it's so important. So possibly Buddy Barrier. Focus Band, I think, is another choice for the god tier. Focus Band keeps you alive multiple times throughout the game. You don't feed because of it. You win team fights because of it. You stay alive in lane because of it. You know that you can beat someone you're one-on-oneing because of it. It's hard to say that an item isn't better than Focus. That an item's better than Focus Band. Muscle Band, I actually think, is a contender here, but it's probably not as good as the other two. You do tons of damage with it. For certain Pokemon, it helps you get to attack speed thresholds, which we're still learning about inside the game, so I can't say too much about it, except it's getting better. Our knowledge of attack speed is getting better, and because of that, I don't know where the attack speed lands on it, but it's passive benefit, its passive ability, where every single one of your basic attacks does extra damage. It's pretty good. Score Shield is actually maybe the hardest one to argue for in this category, only because there are a few mons you don't run this on at all. I'm not running this on an Absol. I'm not running this on Cinderace, Greninja, stuff like that. You can, but I'd rather run some damaging items. However, on all those Pokemon, I could run a Buddy Barrier or a Focus Band. So for me, it's not a super exciting choice, but I do think Buddy Barrier is probably the god tier item inside of Pokemon Unite. And the biggest reason is you're alive when you're most useful. And that's so huge. It's something to think about. How are you able to be the most useful member of your team? How are you able to take advantage of a situation when you use your best move inside the game? I think because of that, Buddy Barrier is the top choice. Now, it's time to move things around for the people who skip to the end and see if anyone posts a comment about it. And here we go. Boop, 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 boop. They're gonna know I'm lying if Buddy Barrier is not too. Yeah. So the biggest thing about all of this is, like I said, scoring is the game. It's everything. The only thing that you do is score inside this game. Don't worry about the enemies. Don't worry about Dreadnought, Rotom. All that's fine. Don't get me wrong. But what matters is being able to put points in the goal. At the end of the game, it doesn't show how many Dreadnoughts were taken and factor that into the equation. Score Shield, the best item in the game. Choice Specs, Wise Glasses, also the two other best items. Focus Band, Muscle Band, we've talked about those. Buddy Barrier falling off a lot because of these high damaging items. Weakness Policy, obviously very, very good. And the items that are really bad no matter what, of course, we've got Leftovers, Rocky Helmet, but all the stacking items. All the stacking items are just so they're not even situationally good. They're just bad. They're bad because there are many games where you don't get to score at all throughout the entire game. So you get no benefit from these items at all. Never run these. Never. And yeah, Score Shield. Score Shield's our boy, right up there in the God tier. I hope this was interesting. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.